Joining us live in studio is Thabisho Molelekwa, Santaco spokesperson. That's the South African National Taxi Council. Thanks so much for your time. And you at home, the lines are always open on 011-542-2186. Thanks so much, Mr. Molelekwa, for your time. Just in what's currently happening, I mean, how do authorities even monitor this clearly volatile situation in Delft over the elections of the Taxi Association? Clearly a struggle for power.
The situation in the Western Cape, or in Delft in particular, is quite regrettable. But I think what is very important is that we need to separate the elections from the actual violence, because we cannot have violence justifying why people should act in a violent way. The issue at the center of the issue at Delft is the issue of routes, where the two taxi associations are fighting. And unfortunately, there's one association that is legally entitled to operate there, and the other one that is trying to forcefully operate there. So we are only hoping that the structure in Western Cape, which is the Santaco Western Cape, would be able to engage with the affected associations to reach an amicable solution.
And how does the authorities, or rather the government's reaction in wanting to suspend operating licenses and close down certain ranks precipitate the situation?
It's a double-edged sword. Firstly, it could be one way of resolving the situation or easing the tension that is already there. But at the same time, it would usually impact on the commuters, who actually have got nothing to do with the violence that is currently ongoing. Our view is that we firstly condemn violence, and this is why Santaco has been trying to facilitate a meeting with the acting national commissioner to put up a team that would deal with all taxi-related violence, whereby people who resolve problems through violence the law must take its course, so that we are able to have a stable industry where people can be able to cooperate in a way that is mutually beneficial.
But how likely is an amicable agreement if you're saying that there is one association that is not registered or operating illegally, that's trying to impose itself in the profitable routes? They're not very likely to sit around a negotiating table if they're not going to win.
Well, firstly, maybe this is a common situation in many areas of our country, and we have associations that have been able to resolve these issues amicably. And this is why I specifically mentioned our Santaco Western Cape structure as part and parcel of a solution to the problem, because all that is required is for the legally entitled to operate, and the law to be forcefully implemented to ensure that there is sanity in the area.
And maybe you can give us, just as a preamble, the living conditions in that area, because it is regarded as a high crime risk area, under development, largely populated by government housing projects, about 43% unemployment rate. So even that in itself is a conducive environment for violence.
True. And without necessarily wanting to dwell much into the socio-economic factors of that, what we would say is we do not want to have a situation where the taxi industry precipitates the socio-economic conditions of any area in the country. We rather see ourselves as a contributor towards solutions in terms of eliminating this. I know that dealing with issues that have got to do with removing one person or one taxi from a particular route affects income, and therefore you find that 5 or 10 people are affected by that. But what is important is that operating a taxi is a legal contract between government, who issues the license, and the operator, and therefore it would be unfair to ignore those realities and want to accommodate everybody. In one way or the other, sanity must prevail, and that can only prevail if there's application of law and with cooperation with the taxi structures involved.
Yeah, it's a little comfort, as you were saying, for commuters who are solely dependent on public transport.
Yes.
To ferry from one point to the other. And so what kind of guarantees are there that their safety, at least, or that there are contingency plans for them to commute?
With the current situation ongoing in Delft, it's not easy to guarantee that. And this is why we call upon the authorities, especially law enforcement, to participate in the process of resolving the situation there, because over and above the situation at hand, you may also have a situation where there is opportunism out of the violence that is there, that would obviously lead to loss of lives. And the only thing that we can only say for now to the commuters is that we regret the situation, and we hope that that can be resolved as speedily as possible.
All right, Mr. Mulalekwa, let's hold that thought. We have a caller on the line. Hi, Joe. Good evening to you. Hi, Joe.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Actually, can I make this? I want to make a very, very contribution here.
Go ahead.
The issue in terms of taxi violence, it is not. You can blame that they are ineffective, but the issue of taxi violence, it is orchestrated in the Department of Transport. You see, the officials, you see, and that is why, you see, there is this carnage against
what do you mean? And exactly, which officials?
Department of Transport.
Okay, but
sorry?
Yeah, I was just saying who exactly, which officials are agitating the situation? And
they are in the taxi, they are the officials that are actually assigned to deal with taxi issues, pertaining routes and all that. This thing is orchestrated in the Department of Transport. And I want to tell you, it is as long as the police, yes, they are weak, it must be escalated to another level. They are the hawks here, you see, in this country. They are the hawks. Why can't they escalate? Because they can see. Now, every government official it is watching when people are dying like flies. And they said that they wanted to make our lives better. And they're bringing more misery to us.
All right, Joe. Joe, thank you so much for your point, saying that there are various instruments or government levers that can be used to get to the bottom of who the agitators are, number one, and making arrests as well with the harshest penalties.
Well, true. I mean, that's what I was saying, that, it's very important for law enforcement to come in full swing. It's very important for, law enforcement to take the lead, especially for those who commit crime and kill. Because as Santaco, we cannot condone that. We cannot condone any problem solving through a barrel of a gun. The only thing I cannot, vouch for with conviction is the fact that the view that, there are government officials who are involved. We do know, of course, that in Gauteng that is prevalent, where we've got some conflicted government officials in taxi affairs, and that is part of the reason why we've got violence. But in the Western Cape, one cannot say that at this moment.
Yeah, but as a taxi council, shouldn't you then take this up either, in terms of those that are conflicted, as you're saying, that may not necessarily make the best judgment based on their own benefit? Should those corrupt officials, if I may call them that, not be reported?
We have one. And this is why I was talking about our intentions to hold a meeting with the acting national commissioner, as part and parcel of forming a task team that would deal with these issues. We have also raised this issue with, the Minister of Transport, and just immediately after the announcement by President Jacob Zuma during his State of the Nation address, when he spoke about the National Taxi Task Team to deal with crime, we wrote a letter to the Minister of Police requesting a meeting to realize the objectives of that task team. We are still awaiting response.
And I'm sure something that you will follow up, because in the meantime, there's a bloodshed in various parts of the country. Phineas and Tembisa, good evening to you.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right, yeah.
What's your comment or question?
The comment, this thing of a taxi is getting out of hands now, because every time you go to the public transport, you don't know if you'll come back alive. Every time when you use a public transport, they are killing people. I come across this situation at somewhere near Tembisa, where a lady was using a transport and then get killed by these people. If they find themselves, it affects the passengers, and it's out of order. I think the bus will work. This taxi is really, we're getting tired of it.
All right, Phineas, thanks so much. I mean, what is Santaco and other taxi associations doing to clean up the image of taxi associations disregarding the very bread, that they get from their passengers? And primarily also another case of the rogue taxi that's making the rounds, that's now been referred to as the rape taxi. So there's a lot in terms of reputation that the association has to deal with.
It would sound like we're trying to avoid responsibility, but at the center of our concern is lack of, harsh enforcement of law in taxi-related crimes. And this is why we continue to pursue the Acting National Commissioner, the Minister of Police, as part and parcel of creating a task team that would specifically focus on taxi violence to ensure that all those perpetrators are brought to book, they receive harsher sentences, and where Santaco support is needed, we're able to give that support to even, move for a harsher sentences than the one that has been given by the courts. On our side, what we are doing, we are enhancing our structures in terms of disciplinary processes, and unfortunately, that is as far as we can go, because in terms of legal issues, we can only leave that to the courts in the hope that the police would do its work thoroughly.
Now, with the suggestion from the Transport Department in the Western Cape of redefining the routes, if there's already so much tension just as things stand, how will this improve the situation?
It's unlikely. Precisely because the issue of routes has got its own history. I mean, there are people who are still, fighting for, getting their routes and getting their permits related to their routes. So redefining that would not necessarily resolve the problem unless you resolve the current problems that are there in terms of those routes.
All right, so let's take our last caller on this. Musad, good evening to you and thanks for calling. What's your comment or question? Hi,
Hello, madam?
Yes, sir.
How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
It's Musa here over in Chatsworth.
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure whether I'm on the right track, but are you on the taxis or on the violence on our communities?
Yeah, no, on the taxi violence, specifically in Philippi and Delft.
Is it? Okay, because we are ravaged by crime here in Chatsworth and nothing is happening here in Chatsworth.
All right, Musad, please call in when we have that as a debate, but thanks nonetheless. So again, I suppose if you were to give us timelines as to when the process will unfold in dealing with the violence in Delft, what happens next?
What happens next is that Santaco National will be engaging with Santaco in the Western Cape as part and parcel of facilitating this, and obviously this would be inclusive of government involvement, considering that the MEC has made certain announcements, and see how we can best, manage that to ensure that, it contributes to us resolving the problem. If I may just quickly indicate that in terms of the taxi serial rapist, already as we speak, our structure in Johannesburg has already engaged with the provincial commissioner to find out what is it that they have done so far. We have alerted our structures in the ranks involved, Rodeport, Bramfisher and others, the Westgate, where it is alleged that this is where he's traceable, to look at that. We also encourage our commuters not to get onto taxis that are without stickers, because a taxi without a sticker is an illegal taxi because it does not belong to any association.
Yeah. All right, Temba, you are last call. I mean, second last, I've been saying that. But good evening to you. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks to having me, Cindy Mabe.
Yes, sir. What's your comment or question?
You know what, Cindy Mabe? I think our fellow South Africans, they are too ignorant. Look, taxi industry, there's no order at all. That's what I can tell you. Our people, they get killed when the taxi owners are fighting. They don't even involve us as community leaders to fight on those issues of the roads. Look, we are the people that we are fighting for service delivery here. When there's no service delivery in the place, they don't come with their taxis. But when we start to fight for service delivery to make sure that our government is putting the tar roads on our area, they will come and fight for those things and kill our people also.
And Temba,
and kill our passengers also.
yeah, but have you reported what you allege as killings by the taxi associations?
Let me tell you something about the law in this country. What I noticed, the law is favor of the criminals. Look at the lady that in 2 days, 3 days, it was raped by 3 guys on the taxi. What that? In fact, that is why I'm saying that our fellow South African, they are too ignorant. And it's very sad because we have people that we are calling general, whoever. It's very nice to being called general and being called as a minister, but doing nothing for those people that are putting you there.
Yeah. Temba, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your call, saying that you're not doing enough, obviously not necessarily singling out the associations, but you're not appreciating where the power balance lies, that the commuters are essentially your kingmakers and they need to be respected and treated accordingly.
And we acknowledge that. However, in a violent situation, it becomes tricky to involve them. We've got violent situations, for example, in the Rustenburg 2 years ago that we dealt with, where commuters were clapping with certain police officers to create instability within the taxi industry. So we're dealing with the situation the best way we know how. And this is why we want, where violence is involved, we want law enforcement to take the lead. We will communicate with our structures. There is one guy who was also creating, havoc in the Western Cape, who was dismissed by Santaco, but it is not enough. Without law enforcement, this is not enough.
Yeah, but do you have a corporate approach to the industry, or is it it's still fragmented as it was, in recent history? In this, are you inducting your members? Do they know what the code of ethics, etc., is, or the expectation on their part?
We do. We do that with serious shortcomings that it comes with. Firstly, it's a question of funding that it requires to reach a wider audience in terms of that. But what we have done, we have moved into getting mobile offices or training clinics, where we'll be getting into the ranks and training people on code of ethics, among others, on customer care, and with operators on how to engage with issues confronting their day-to-day operations. So there are limitations in terms of finance, but we are moving towards that direction, and we hope that in the long run that would be achieved.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Mr. Thabisho Mulalekwa, he's the spokesperson for the South African National Taxi Association Council. And you're at home. Thanks indeed for calling in as well. We take a look at other developing stories across the country.